What's up? It's Lance back with another interview. Today we have Jay Johnson. He is in the book Running with the Buffaloes. It's a very popular running book. I'm sure some of you have read it. He runs the Nike Boulder running camps and clinic. It's for athletes, and the clinic is for coaches. And then he helps with athletes of all types of ages and different levels of training. And then finally, he wrote this amazing book, Consistency is Key. Some of my father's team has read it and they love it. I love it. It took me forever to read it, but once I did, it was worth it. So Jay, how's the day been so far?
It's been great, man. I caught a little bit of an episode with Andrew Weeding, caught the first couple minutes of the one with Dylan Jacobs. And I just want to be very candid about the fact that you have chosen somebody with, a much lower VO2 max, much lower lactate threshold, and much slower PRs. My PRs are so slow that when Weeding was saying he's run 330, I ran 349.5, which equates to about 406, maybe 407 for a full mile. Think how 19 seconds. Imagine if he and I were in the same race, man. I'd be back at essentially like the 130 mark in a 1500 meter race. So and Lance, that's a good example of like, I can't turn my track brain off, right? Like when I hear 330, like, oh my God, like if I was in that race, I basically wouldn't have been in the race. So
it's all right. I sometimes deal with it too in classes or something, like when they say like a time or something, I'm always like, whatever. So
yeah.
are you able to reach so many athletes and coaches with your knowledge that you've taken away?
Yeah, I mean, it's 2022. I started my college coaching career in, when did I start? 2002. So this is my 20th year of coaching. I was a junior college coach. Yeah, thanks. Our mutual friend, Jeff Belay, has been coaching for 20 years too, but he started earlier than I did. He also looks about 10 years younger than me. So when he says 20 years, it's this crazy optics of like, no way, you've been coaching for 20 years. For me, it probably works. But 2 years as a junior college coach, 6 years at the University of Colorado. So 8 years of college coaching. And then I was a stay-at-home dad for both of my girls. They're 13 and 10. So if you go back 13 years ago, what's that? Well, she was born in 2008. And I was coaching some professional runners. One of them, here's Britt Vaughn. He won the U.S. cross country championship. Lance, I don't know if you can tell, that's his medal that he won, right?
He gave
me that as a gift. And he has a son. I'm like, Britt, take it. Like, it was so sweet that you gave that to me. Please take that medal back. He will not take it. It's just a great example of, Brent is just a fantastic, he's a fantastic human being. He's a great coach now, great dad. But bottom line is I was coaching some professional athletes from about 2008 to maybe 2013. And, on an old Android phone, on a Motorola, like flip phone with little buttons on it, I was going around and taking videos I was riding a bike, taking videos of the athletes and posting it to Vimeo, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So this is a long circuitous way to answer your question, which is at one point, as somebody who's 46 years old, I was solidly coached at a time where if you wanted to be a college coach, you had to get your master's degree, then you coached in college, and that's what you did unless you wanted to leave college coaching or high school coaching and sell real estate or insurance or, things like that. And then what happened was, and then my ex-wife was a corporate lawyer. And so there wasn't pressure on me and my coaching to be the sole income for our family. And so then that just led to some things that I did. I did start the Boulder running camps when I coached at CU and was very fortunate to keep running that all these years when I haven't been coaching at CU. And as Pete Julian, who runs, you would know the name of it, is the Nike Union Athletics Club.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Pete, one time at the U.S. cross country championships in Boulder, we hadn't seen each other in a while. He and I were roommates. I was roommates with Pete, Brad Hudson, who's a coach you may or may not know, This guy, Sean Found, this legendary CU runner, and we were all roommates. I ran horrible that year, by the way, because I was living with all these guys who are these post-collegiate / professional runners. I was still in college, but we were former roommates. Saw him at the cross country meet. I said, "How's it going?" He said, "I'm making a living in track, so things are going pretty well."
So I'm gonna have to say I relate to your Brett Vaughn medal. My favorite runner, Robbie Andrews. I have his sub 4 mile spikes jersey and shorts that he ran. It was at the 2013 pin relays. He ran 3:57.87. So we have that in
Wow.
another room. Yeah, I told him so my relation with that is my godmother, her husband is the physical trainer for Team Reebok. So Josette runs for Team Reebok, and obviously Josette and Robbie are engaged. So I tried to ask Eddie, if he wants it back, please let me know. Like I was hesitant to take it, but it's awesome.
Yeah, and for these athletes too, I mean, I'm never gonna, I wasn't that good of a cross country runner. I got I was barely. I mean, I don't say this too loudly to my teammates from the running with the Buffaloes days, but we weren't nearly as good as the guys who, I'm lucky to have some national championship rings from when I was an assistant coach at CU. Those guys were way better. Like you essentially had to be a sub 14-minute guy to be on the varsity cross country team on those teams, where, I was a 14:20 guy. I mean, we had guys under 14 minutes, but not that many. And long story short, like, I think whether it's a Brent Vaughn or a Robbie Andrews, they're the ones who had the experience of running 3:57 of, Brent ran a really dramatic race where in a 12K race, he went with 6 kilometers to go and he just went. So yeah, them having that experience is obviously something that I'm not going to have. But Lance, you have a bright future. You ran really well this fall, so yeah, man.
So obviously you built your brand really well. It is Boulder Running Camps is the biggest coaching clinic in the United States and one of the biggest running camps and also the United States. What was your goals trying to start that up? Was it to touch other athletes and coaches, or was it just build your knowledge and hopefully build some others?
Yeah, Boulder Running Camps was pretty obvious. So I was somebody who played a lot of basketball growing up, and I'd always gone to basketball camps. And my dad and one of his good friends had always run a basketball camp. So if you go way back, my dad was a high school basketball coach and then was a college coach at a small college in Nebraska. When I was born, he was coaching basketball. And so this idea of a camp, but also the idea that a family business could be running a camp was definitely something that was in my mind. And it just worked out well. At the University of Colorado, I was able to run a camp. It wasn't like it wasn't a draw from a recruiting standpoint, but it definitely didn't hurt. I mean, over the years, we absolutely had kids who were campers who went on then to run at the University of Colorado. For whatever reason, the one that's coming to mind is Andy Wacker, who's a very good runner at CU, who's a really good mountain runner and ultra runner now. So he was a camper, one of the best camp counselors ever. You'll appreciate this. How cool would it be to show up at camp and your counselor just shows up in a toga one day and he does a trail run? He just called it Toga Day. Like, we didn't have Toga Day planned. Andy Wacker just decided for him and his group. So camp is organized where we have one counselor that's a college age athlete, and they've got anywhere from 6 to 8 athletes. And for his group that day, it was Toga Day, and it was great. But long story short, I mean, and Lance, I mean, in 2020, it's definitely, people think of a brand. Your vlog, these interviews have a brand. The Boulder Running Camps is separate from the Boulder Running Clinics, but they both say Boulder Running in it, right? And so we have to, I shouldn't say we, I have to be mindful of how those things are branded. I think this book, consistency is key. Like, I definitely want to be the person that tries to worm that phrase into high school athletes' minds, right? That consistency is key. But in some ways, I also wrote a book for marathon runners up here, simple marathon training, right? And Lance, I mean, to be honest, I don't have all this dialed in terms of being able to help. I like helping busy adults with the marathon, but I'm really passionate about helping high school athletes, right? So things like the camp are really important. Final thing, your dad joined us this past, what was it, two weekends ago, two weekends ago this Friday. We were in Boulder for the Boulder running clinics. So for those of you that don't know, a clinic is basically the term for a conference for coaches. So it's a conference in Boulder for high school distance coaches. And I'm really blessed that so many people travel for that. And, that's, I mean, I don't mislead myself and say, oh, if I help Jason Retz at, St. Joseph Ogden, I'm making a big impact on his athletes. I know that's not true. But if I help in a tiny way, help your dad, that helps you and everybody in that program. And that's something that is, I would say that we all get tired during our work day and during our work week. And that's something I try and come back to, that, hey, I'm able to do something that hopefully impacts a lot of high school athletes.
So you kind of skimmed it over a little bit, but what was your biggest motivation? Writing consistency is key.
Writing consistency is key. I mean, here's the deal. When you write a book, they say you need to have your ideal reader in mind. Okay. Lance, my ideal reader is not you. It was not you for this book. You know why? Because you have a really good coach, because you're in a system, you live in a town where if you just keep moving up through the ranks from middle school up into high school, you're going to have an amazing high school experience. That was not my experience. I was the only serious guy on the team. I was the only person who really wanted to be a good runner. And where I got lucky is there are also two other guys. Adam Batliner, a good friend of mine, designed the book. He's a guy who's in running with the Buffaloes. And then the guy who did the editing is a guy named Kyle Wyatt, who grew up in a small town in Nebraska. And Kyle and I have a pretty similar story. Kyle had better high school coaching than I had, but he didn't have like off the charts, super sophisticated coaching. He ran at the University of Nebraska. Adam and I ran at CU. And I would just think about those two. I would think about what would I want to communicate to my high school self? So somebody who's fired up, somebody who's willing to train really hard, but has no clue what to do. Now, if people have read this book does not have workouts in it. It does. It has 4 types of aerobic workouts. It has long runs, fartlek runs, progression runs, talks a little bit about threshold runs. Yes, I talk about doing strides, but it doesn't say, hey, Lance, on Monday, you should do a speed development day, because that's going to have a potentiation effect that's going to allow you to run some 800-meter repetition work on Tuesday, and you're going to feel faster. That's something your dad and a lot of people in Illinois do, but we're not talking about that, right? But to come back to your question, I mean, I hope it doesn't sound like some self-absorbed thing, but I was trying to write a book that I would have wanted to read, and that I thought would have helped me as a high school athlete become a better high school athlete. And I've only written 2 books. When I wrote my marathon book, I was coaching some athletes at the time where like I knew what they needed as an athlete, but this one was super easy because I knew what I didn't have as a high school athlete. So, and one thing, folks, I should say this, like, this book you can read in 90 minutes. It takes me more like an hour 40, hour 45. But I want to give Kyle Wyatt, the editor, a ton of acknowledgement, because it's easy to read. I'm not a bad writer, but at the end of the day, I'm a track coach who writes, not a writer who coaches track. And it reads really smoothly because Kyle was just, he was fantastic.
I gotta say, my favorite part was easily learning about all of the different programs, such as we have Neuqua Valley Girls, we have American Fork, we have Mount Vista, who I'm sure all you guys know. And then coming back with my dad was probably the coolest, well, not coolest, I would say, but like the most interesting part about what he brought back was the Mr. Boulder's athlete from a couple of years ago. What was it? It was
Paul Roberts was the best athlete he coached in high school. I don't know if it's that, but he's coached some really good post collegiate athletes too. And he actually coached Kyle Wyatt, the editor. Kyle made, during the process of me writing, him editing, he made the U.S. Olympic trials team in the marathon. It was like the 250th rank. He was ranked like 250 going in. And he finished 101st.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what are some specific things that you focus on with your training schedules? Because obviously you do a ton of different age levels and different levels of experience. So you got to have some things that you kind of try to pinpoint on. And what are those?
Yeah. One fun thing about writing the book, and this is not some like sales pitch for the book. This is just, you ask me, what do I believe in training? And it's in here, right? So I like to use a car metaphor. And with the car, we're going to build the aerobic engine. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do it with long runs. We're going to do fartlek runs, which I think are underutilized. Fartlek runs, if you don't know the term, it just means running. It's a Swedish term. It's a Swedish term that means, holy cow, this is super embarrassing, on the spot. Speed play. Geez, Lance, about threw an egg in your Zoom call here. All right, so fartlek runs, you're oscillating between two paces. For me, it's usually 5-minute segments. Okay, so if I was coaching Lance, well, like the kids I work with in the off season, like this winter, the first workout we're going to do, if you're a really young athlete, we might only do 1 minute on, 1 minute at a steady pace. Most athlete like you would do 2 minutes on, 3 minutes at a steady pace. You're thinking, Jay, what is on pace? We're just running by feel. It's about 5K effort, but I don't even like to say 5K effort necessarily. We just want you running up tempo a little faster for that 2 minutes. And Lance, if we do 5 blocks of that, a 2 and a 3, that's 25 minutes, right? Now, when I work with athletes, in the first 15 minutes, we're going to run 7 or 8 minutes easy. And then we're going to run 7 or 8 minutes. We're going to throw in 3 by 20 to 25 second strides. And the reason we're doing those strides is to get our legs turning over a little bit before we jump into this fartlek workout. So that's part number 3 of the car metaphor. We're going to build the aerobic engine, but we always have to be revving the engine. So like on a workout day, Lance is going to rev the engine a little bit with those strides, do the workout, do a really short cool down. This is where we can go in one of 2 ways. In the winter, we go straight into our chassis building work. Okay. So with the car metaphor, what happens is athletes get injured because they build their aerobic engine. And that's a metabolic improvement, right? Our heart and lungs, basically at the level of the mitochondria, we have more we have mitochondrial enzymes, and we're improving those in a way through training that that we're not doing when we're just going to school. But as your aerobic engine grows, then you can run faster. But let's say your Achilles tendon isn't ready for Lance to be doing a 30-minute fartlek run or a 25-minute fartlek run faster. So we've got to do things to strengthen Lance's chassis. And obviously that's where the metaphor breaks down a little bit. But the idea is your muscles, obviously, but also your tendons, also your ligaments, also your bones. We want to strengthen that. And this could be everything from when you think of core work, it is core work, but it could be body weight things like body weight lunges, body weight squats. And then what I would want to see an athlete do, and there's some good arguments to just loading things up with weights. But what I would want somebody to do is to start with body weight and move to light external load, right? So we've got the lunge. Now we've got a lunge with some dumbbells, and then we've got a lunge with like a barbell, right? So we're going light external load with the dumbbell, and then heavy external load. But honestly, Lance, a lot of the athletes I work, not a lot, all the athletes I work with this winter, we're just staying with body weight stuff. So that's what a workout on a Tuesday might look like. And we get all those elements in. Now let's fast forward to Wednesday, which for a lot of athletes is an easy day. Now we're just doing that aerobic run, but we're going to do strides. So if Lance is running 40 minutes, I'll say at the 25-minute mark, Lance, I want you to put in 5 by 20 to 25 seconds. And when we start that, it's only at 5K effort, right? So 25 seconds of 5K effort is no big deal in January, but I have a progression of strides. Okay. And with that progression, as we move through January, February, and then into March, now you're going to be running 800-meter pace, potentially in the middle of an easy run. And I can talk training forever, but I'll leave with this. In 2022, everybody knows they need to build the aerobic engine. Everybody's doing, people love threshold runs, and I actually put those fourth in the progression. We do long runs and then fartlek runs and then progression runs, because I want you to learn to run by feel, and that's the progression in which to learn those. Threshold runs, as somebody from Illinois, you'll know John Sipple at Downers Grove North. He says threshold runs are actually hard to teach athletes. And if I remember correctly, one time your dad said he likes to do broken thresholds. So he might take a 20-minute run, chop it into 2 10-minute segments. But the bottom line is, everybody knows threshold runs, steady state, whatever you want to use. Everybody's building the aerobic engine in 2022. Most people are committed to the chassis strengthening, but it's the revving the engine. If your coach assigned you strides and you don't do it, you didn't do the day's assignment. And I see it all the time. It's easier to get away with this mistake in cross country because you're not running that fast. Like, I don't care how fast you are, right? Let's say see if I have my math right. You're a 15:37 5K runner. That's 5-minute pace, right? If you think about that, is a 75-second 400 really that fast? No, right? It's not that fast. And what that athlete could run for a mile or what they could run for 800 is going to be much faster. So now in the track season, that the boy that can run 15:37, the girl that can run 17:30, they've really got to be running strides faster. Even now, you and I are speaking late January 2022. Definitely now, and then moving into February, and for sure when track practice starts into February, beginning of March, they've really got to be running some fast, hundreds. I really like I like 120s, because I like that you kind of run in for 30 meters and then you maintain it for 120 meters. So long story short, revving the engine most days is the third part of the car metaphor, and I see people not doing that. So I'll hop in with the other one. Another one is people don't take their easy days easy enough. So one of the points, consistency is key, as 15 points. The 2 points are, you got to keep your easy days easy so your hard days can be hard. Lance, you're about to enter into a phase of your training, or I shouldn't say training. You're about to have what we would call a training age that's 1 or more. So so how old are you?
Currently I am 14.
So 14 is your chronological age. Your training age is what I'm going to say. Your first year of training age is when you train year round and are pretty serious, right? Now
that would be
right?
13 years old if I was year round and stuff like that.
Okay, so let's say you're a 14-year-old with a training age of 1, which is very advanced, right? Like we might have a lot of people who, I mean, again, you're in a unique situation where there's a focus on running both in the household and in the town. Let's say there's an athlete. Honestly, I'll use my girl's mom. She was an All-American at Georgetown. She didn't even she just came out for the track team her freshman year in high school, because a friend said, let's go to cross country practice. So she's, let's say, 15 or 16 with the training age of 0. But when you have a training age of 1 or 2, Lance isn't going to get fit on his easy days. He's going to gain fitness on his hard days. So let's keep our easy days easy enough so that we can really run hard on our hard days.
I like that. Actually, really do. I'm going to use that. I love to use easy days easy, hard days hard, and then go by feel. I love to use that. That's ever see my teammates ask me. So you said, I don't know if this is true, but if your daughter's in a situation like you were in high school, she doesn't have a great coach, because I know your daughter is a talented young runner. And so how do you, as a phenomenal coach, just not step in and say, come on, we got to do this or this? Like, how do you stay out of it?
I shut up. I just bite my tongue. I just don't say anything, Lance. Like her, so here's the experience my daughter had. And I love my daughter. I mean, it's just so cool. Like, I'm sure your dad's the same way. To have your favorite athlete be your kid is the most amazing thing. Like
My
if
dad's
I
not
go
the same.
back,
My
what?
dad's not the same way. My dad's not the same way.
No, I know he is. I know he is. Yeah. So she was in 7th grade. Her mom was an All-American. Her dad's a dorky track coach. Like, she's kind of been exposed to it. But my daughter had never been in an organized sport. So she never played soccer, never been on the swim team.
Okay.
She's at this really small all-girl school. It's a public school, but it's just for girls, and they have cross country. And I thought it was great that she did it. And yeah, I mean, I bet she didn't run 40 miles over. Well, she only ran 3 or 4. Yeah, I mean, bottom line is it was great. I learned so much about the sport from a different viewpoint. This coach cared about my daughter. He cared about all the girls on the team. Lance, they had a lot of races. And when I first saw it, I wrongly thought, oh, there's too many races on there. There were too many races for Lance Retz going into high school. For you, there were too many races. But for my 7th grade daughter who doesn't know how to race, who doesn't know how to be uncomfortable, who doesn't know she should go to the lead right away, like it was a fantastic experience for her. And it really taught me too that, yeah, my daughter has some talent. She's competitive. And I just believe she doesn't need to be training seriously until the summer before her junior year in high school. And that's where some people might say, oh, and honestly, from a business perspective, that's probably not the best thing I should be saying, right? But knowing that she has some genetic ability, and this is something that we haven't figured out in America. Why do young women struggle to have an 8-year career where they get a little bit better every year, like in a linear progression? And a lot of men like Robbie Andrews, he just got better and better and better. And that's why in here we talk about progress is not linear, right? This is actually more true for a young woman than it is for a young man. And that's why in the book, I talk about a young woman who got really good as a freshman, maybe isn't as serious about training, but yeah, yeah, I mean, there were times where I would have had a different race strategy, but the last thing she needs is her dad telling her what her race strategy should be.
So how do you influence your daughters? Because I know Padre likes to let me kind of do my own thing, try to stay self-motivated. Will he suggests that I do it? Yes, but he doesn't say you need to get out the door. He likes to let me do it on my own. So like how do you keep your daughter motivated or influenced?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty, I'm going to give myself an A for they've never gone on a run. She's never gone on a mountain bike ride that she didn't want to go on. And I'm pretty good. So if you go back to me being a stay-at-home dad, I'm pretty good at reading these kids, right? Like I've changed a lot of dirty diapers. I've held an infant for a long time. I'm really blessed that I have this energetic connection to my girls. And so like if I ask them a question, I know I can feel that tension between, am I going to say something that, does dad always wants to go on a mountain bike ride? Like I always want to go on a mountain bike ride. And that's like a way to fit in this aerobic training, right? And Lance, it's great training too, in terms of just strength training, because we'll go on these like gradual hills. And I mean, her legs are strong, right? And so like, I mean, I want to sneak that in, right? I want to sneak in some cross country training on a mountain bike ride. But I just, yeah, I mean, I just don't ask him to do those things. And I actually hired Jeff Belay to coach my girls between the end of cross country. And there's a really awesome coach in this area, Tim Galdine, who sets up these meets just to race the mile, or he'll set up like a middle school cross country race. Yeah, it's awesome. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So like you can end cross country and you can train for another month just to run the mile. How rad it's awesome, right?
That's awesome. I want that. The mile's my favorite. I want to have that. That
Yeah.
would move to
So
Colorado.
yeah. Yeah. So I thought that would be cool. And they were into it. And then they lost interest. And then we didn't do it any longer. So and it would be fair. I mean, if there's parents watching this saying, no, you know, if they committed to running a race, you know, 3 weeks in the future, you needed to hold them to it. But that's not what I chose to do.
Good choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what is the biggest change that you've made from your coaching philosophy? Obviously, you literally get to listen to the best of the best whenever you would like. So you get to learn from all these so smart people, John Sipple, the Illinois guys, literally anyone. And what is the biggest thing you've taken away and you've changed about your coaching?
Well, if I could go back to my 24-year-old self, something that a pretty famous Illinois coach, Joe Newton didn't come up with this, by the way. When I first heard it, I thought it was like he organically came up with this. He definitely had a list of quotes, but Joe Newton would say, they don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? And when I have a master's degree in exercise physiology, but my study, what I studied and wrote my thesis in was sports psychology. Okay. But I took all the hardcore science. I mean, I took a class just on cardio or just on cardiac cells and how heart cells, you know, contract and all this crazy stuff. I don't remember any of it, obviously, but bottom line is, Lance, when early on I thought, man, if I can understand how the mitochondria, you know, how the aerobic system adapts to training, then when I coach Lance Retz, he's going to be more bought into my training. And I think Lance Retz, when he, you know, because I was a college coach first, if I ask you, hey, you know, how is dorm life? What's your roommate like? What's the most challenging class? How is your sleep? Like, you know, caring about people, and all these coaches that you know well in Illinois are great people. They're great with people, right? And they're great. They're great educators. They're great with people. Now they've gotten really good at the craft of coaching, but I would rather take somebody who's never run, somebody who's an English literature teacher who doesn't know anything about physiology, who's never lifted a weight, but if they're great with high school athletes, they can become a good coach. So what I'd go back and tell my, you know, early self is like, it's not that the science doesn't matter, but some combination of having run at CU and knowing enough science, like I was set there. And I think the other thing is, Lance, I did a good job of talking to coaches who knew the stuff I didn't know. So the things that I'm known for now, you know, things like Core X or the lunge matrix. And again, the lunge matrix is physical therapist Gary Gray's work. So I always reference that's not a Jay Johnson thing. Core X is a combination of 10 exercises. And I learned all of them from Mike Smith, not the NAU coach, but the coach at Army. He was at Kansas State at the time. I was at CU. He did all this non-running work. And I just asked him, you know, I just started, quote, picking his brain and talking to him at meets. And, you know, if a college meet kind of starts at 4 p.m, you have all morning. So we'd go on a run. I'd go to his hotel. I'd just ask him I'd ask him question after question. And then one thing I'll throw in here, you're in Illinois. I know Tony Holler, Plainfield North, Feed the Cats. People are really into that. There was a time, I mean, I've got a video on YouTube that I think is extremely helpful on speed development. I still believe in that video. I think if you do exactly what's in that video, it's essentially a workout. I think that workout's great. But I don't think speed development, if you said, what are items A through Z, is it one of A, B, C, D, E, F? It's not in the, like, speed development is further down, right? The other thing about speed development is you need a good coach like your dad, or a coach who really knows what they're doing to use it. So none of the kids who I work with in the off season do speed development because no one is there to watch those athletes, right? So I'm sharing that as an example of something that I was really into it. I still believe in it, but I don't emphasize it as much in the coaching that I do, where I'm not with an athlete at the track because it doesn't make sense. But it absolutely makes sense for you and your teammates when you guys are doing it, because you have somebody you know that can watch you.
So obviously your daughter, like we just talked about, she was running. You got to see running for the first time in a long time, very firsthand, and you got to see some of the struggles of the training side of it for a young athlete. And so what are some of the things that you learned with your daughter's running that you did not know before?
Yeah, I think, well, my daughter didn't have tough train. I'm so thankful. Her coach did a fantastic job, and she wasn't in a program where they trained hard. Okay, so, and I would ask her sometimes, "Are you sore?" And she was never sore, right? So she went through a cross country season being sore. But I can answer the question, I think, from the standpoint of, let's say kids I've worked with in the summer, and what you want. So actually, why don't we talk about winter right now? And I don't want to date this. I mean, this video hopefully has value for people regardless of when they're watching. But today is January 28th, I believe. Yeah, January 28th. And let's say practice starts a Monday in 2022, it'll be February 21st. So let's say we roughly have 3 weeks, right? I want an athlete to be fired up to train harder, and then they'd be ready to race their first race 2 weeks later when they show up for official practice February 21st. And the struggle I see with athletes is this is a hard time to train. And so it's easy to get fired up and have that, mentality of like Rocky and whatever, Rocky 2 or Rocky 3, when he's gonna fight Drago, I think is the guy's name. And he's, I mean, we can all picture Rocky in the snow all by himself training hard. And, I was an athlete who would run really well indoors and would struggle to get to the conference meet and run as well. Not because Mark Wetmore's training was fantastic. It's just mentally I was tired by May. And so I think it's like this, I want athletes to be serious in January and February, but I keep reminding them in emails, whether it's just individually or in the group emails I send out, to say, hey, like, you got to be well under control mentally. So we're not trying to crush workouts right now. And the other thing too is, like, I just think, it's so hard in 2022 to do two other things: not to compare yourself in a day and age where there's meet results right away on Saturday afternoon, not to compare yourself, not to look at speed ratings and da da da. I mean, way easier for me to say as the adult than to be the high school athlete. And I think the other thing too is, and this is more for the junior or senior who knows they want to run in college, you have a finite amount of energy, and you've got to get sleep. And so, and this is going to make me really unpopular with certain parents right now. If an athlete has 4 AP classes, but is only going to take the AP test in 2 of them, but really wants to run in college, I would say take away those other 2 classes that you're not going to take the test in, and try and get 20 minutes more sleep over every night over a calendar year. You will run faster. Like, I don't have the science to prove that, but I know that if you get 20 minutes more sleep and that compounds, night after night after night, you're absolutely going to run faster. And I think that just highlights, like, we have a finite amount of energy. And it's taken me decades to learn that. Yeah.
All right, I'm coming out to Boulder. What are we doing out there?
I love that. Yeah, you come to the Boulder running camps. Gonna come Wednesday. We'll go for a run on the Boulder Creek path. You'll see some crazy people, guys my age and dreadlocks, like, cruising down the path, maybe on rollerblades or something. Awesome. And again, you'll see Caucasian. When I said, I was picturing like a Caucasian middle-aged man. So like we'll put these dreadlocks in perspective. And then Wednesday night, we'll have a keynote speaker. We'll have somebody talk about exercise physiology. Thursday, we go for this amazing run at Dowdy Draw. When you see a lot of pictures on our Instagram, that's from Dowdy Draw. Food is amazing. I mean, the food is crazy, Lance. It's so good. Like, it's all, as I say that, it's almost like a negative, because Dad says thumbs up. It's super healthy. They've got crazy stuff like mint cucumber lemonade type water stuff. I mean, it's like a resort in the dining hall, with the only negative being, a kid going into their freshman year, not you, but a young man might like overeat in the morning or at lunch when we're going to train again. Here's one thing before I forget. Lance, you're not going to come to Boulder and have the greatest 5 days of training of your life. Okay.
Yeah.
I want you're going to come from sea level up to 5,200 feet. And one of my jobs, and I screwed, this is the 19th or 20th year of the camp. One of the things I screwed up early on with the camp is that athletes would leave and they would get injured a couple weeks later because we ran so much in those 5 days. So you're actually going to run less, and we're not going to run hard until the last day, until the last half of Sunday when we do a long run. And it's very simple. It's this beautiful single track trail, and we'll run out and you'll run with your group. You'll run very controlled. Then on the way back, you can run faster, right? And then everybody comes home, because here's the deal, man. We got scavenger hunt Thursday night. We got skit night Friday night. We're going down to Pearl Street on Saturday. Like, we've got all these social things. You're meeting new people. You're asking questions. I mean, it's awesome. And what happens is, camp ends on Sunday. You travel back Sunday. I always tell athletes, plan Monday, Tuesday after camp to just chill. Maybe somebody at your age, I would say at least one day off, and then you'll get back into training that next Wednesday. But, there's an advantage to altitude training, but 5 days isn't enough to get that EPO. You would get an EPO response if you moved to Boulder for 2 or 3 weeks, right? Coming for 5 days of camp, you're coming to learn. And Lance, this is the coolest thing about camp. You're surrounded by kids who love the sport as much as you. I saw that video where you had 3 pairs of shoes. They look like rocket ship shoes to me, like your footwear, between your Nike shoes and your Hokas and your spikes. Like, there's other kids who can talk shoes and like drop on, what millimeter drop is on this shoe and da 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 da. It's unlike. It's unlike other camps in that way, where everybody's very serious, and serious in a fun way, not serious like we only are here to train. I mean, everybody wants to win. They want to win skit night. They want to win the scavenger hunt. I don't have the right bottle. We give a water bottle that says Camp Champs, and there's only one way you can get that bottle, is if your group is the Camp Olympics champion.
Gonna come home with one of those.
That's awesome.
So you obviously get some very elite counselors for this camp. You are in the biggest camp in the nation. Obviously, you're going to get some faces around the camp that people know. How are you able to set those faces up?
Yeah, we've actually had campers. You might probably know this guy, Ben Blankenship was a camper. He was a camper in the first 2 years of camp, which is pretty crazy. Sinclair Johnson was a counselor. She runs for Nike and is great, NCAA champion in the 1500. The person she dates is Craig Nowak, also known as the Pace Pirate. And Craig was a camper only once, I think. He had to leave camp. We have this great video of him. He has to leave camp when we're taking him to the bus to get to the airport, because he's going to the Nike Elite Camp. And he sends me the sweetest. It's like I wish I had the email. I should look for the email. It's like, hey, I hope this is okay. I got invited to this camp. It's called the Nike Elite Camp. Do you think it's okay if I leave your camp a day early to go? I'm like, yes, that's totally okay. But I will say this, some of the counselors, you don't have to be a fast runner to be a good counselor. What I want out of counselors is somebody who's focused on the high school athlete's experience for 5 days. So I'd much rather you have a counselor from a Division II school or a Division III school who loves running just as much as you do, who knows more about running than you do, and you're not there. Like, they're still going to run faster than you on all those runs. But I totally understand. Like, we had this guy, I forget Alex's last name. Alex's last name is Haynes, I think. This guy from Oklahoma State, really good runner, really cool, has a tattoo or two. Like, yeah, it's always cool to have like the, you know, people who run at Division I schools who are great, but he was a great counselor, right? When I think of Alec, I think of a guy I could totally, he was a dependable guy who I could rely on, who was great with his group. And Lance, I'm going to take it a step further. There's some other camps who are always bragging about how great their counselors are, but I'll be the first to admit, sometimes you have a Division I runner who they want to get altitude training out of their experience, and they're not focused on Lance's experience. So it's one of those things that you have to balance, right? Like we have to make sure all the counselors are focused on what campers' experience is, not their own experience.
So last question. I didn't. Oh, sorry. Skipped one.
Yeah, no worries.
Fun little question here. Let's hear it. Favorite dad joke. What is it?
Lance, we do so many dad jokes here. It's crazy. Hold on. Let me think. This is a horrible one. It's the only one I can think of. What do you get when you cross Darth Vader with an elephant? An elevator.
Oh my. Oh no.
I'm making dad jokes all the time. You know, like if I see a cat walking across the street in a really cool way, I'll look at my daughter. I'm like, oh, it's walking perfectly.
Oh my goodness.
Like bad. I mean, my 13-year-old loves my dad jokes. My 10-year-old doesn't get them all the time. And yeah, we have a lot of dad jokes here.
So Andrew Weeding went with the traditional, have you up dog today? What's up dog? Hey, what's up dog? And so that was his one. And so one final question that I purposely don't add in the questions, I like to put them on the spot. If you could tell young Jay one thing, what would that thing be?
Oh, okay. I'm going to put it back on you a little bit. What age? Am I in middle school? Am I like my sophomore year in high school? New coach?
Dang, put me on the spot. How the tables have turned here. I'm gonna. You're sophomore in high school. Sophomore in high school.
So my high school is weird. That would have been my first year in high school. As a ninth grader, I was in middle school, and then they changed it. So it was my first year in high school. I was running cross country. I was running track, and I would have said, don't wear cowboy boots like I always wore because it's bad for your Achilles. I'd say I thought they were the coolest cowboy boots.
Well,
do I look like a cowboy boot guy?
I said one thing. Yes, you look like a cowboy boots guy. You should rock
nice.
When I come to camp, when I see you first time in person, I'm gonna shake your hand. I'm gonna look down. I better see some cowboy boots.
I don't own boots anymore. I had some when I was coaching at CU. I had some boots with a little heel, and I just love those boots. But here's the deal: a boot with a heel is going to shorten your Achilles, and I would have like foot and calf problems. Okay, so no boots. If I knew something about training, I ran 35 miles a week. I'd say run a bunch, and I'd say be careful in your truck when you're driving on the washboardy roads, because you're not as good a driver as you think you are. And your truck is so light in the back that you could easily fishtail and roll the old truck.
Are you speaking off of experience here?
No, I mean, I never rolled that truck, but it was it's older at the time. It didn't seem like it was a 79 F100, but it was two-wheel drive. And then I have a lawn mowing service. Yeah. So we would dump the grass. Don't tell anybody this, but we'd dump the grass like a couple miles out from town. Like we'd mow it and bag it, and then we'd dump it at this place. And, you know, you were just in a hurry to like go do whatever you wanted to do during the day. And the roads would get washboardy. It was, I think over the course of the summer, they'd get washboardy. And then each fall, I think they graded the roads. I don't remember exactly.
Well, so thank you for hopping on. It was a lot of fun getting to hear some of your answers. Had some laughs, and also you had some great answers. Definitely going to take away a lot from this. Like I said, I'm gonna steal some of the stuff from you if that's okay, as always. Again, read this book. If you're not going to promote it, I'm going to. Read this book. It's amazing. I've not read a lot of training books, so it's not a super high bar, but this one set it high. It covers a lot of different topics, and that's what I love about it. And it tells you a lot of different things about a lot of different athletes. So again, read Consistency is Key. It's on Amazon. If you go to Jay Johnson's Instagram, I'll put that in. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. So again, thanks for hopping on, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, Lance, and I want to share something too. I mean, what you're doing, first of all, you're fantastic at this. Second of all, it's a great thing that you're doing for our community. And when I say our community, I mean the community that, you know, loves that Jakob Ingebrigtsen wears a speed suit, like the real fans, right? And I just wish you well with this endeavor, and thanks for doing it. And then, yeah, man, I don't know if you'll be coming to the June session or the July session, but I can't wait to see you. And oh my gosh, it's only like 5 or 6 months.
Right there.
Right there. All right.
Counting down the days. Counting down the days.
All right, Lance. Thank you.
Yeah. See ya.